The ability to speak might not make you intelligent, but we're going to try to prove otherwise. This is the Clashing Sabres podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon, and I'm here with some fantastic co-hosts tonight. First up, we've got the man who was actually second in the running for president of Lucasfilm. He just decided to step down. Ladies and gentlemen, it's
Davor.
Davor. Made a life choice. Got to stick with Clashing Sabres and Space Swifties over Star Wars.
Work-life balance, Yeah.
It's important. It's important.
It is, yeah.
And the third member that you see on your screen, if you are watching on YouTube, and you're about to hear in your ears if you're listening on podcast platforms, is the man who I would call the Obi-Wan Kenobi of the internet. Ladies and gentlemen, it's
Martin.
Hey, Ken. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me back.
Yeah, this is going to be exciting. So we're going to have a fun episode on this one with the three of us talking and just jamming on some Star Wars. But the reason we wanted to have Ken on is because if you guys listened to the last episode, I talked about the book that we were writing together. It is the second volume of what Ken started with his Jedi Path book. We're going a little deeper into the lore in this one. It's going to be some more heavy hitting concepts, that breaks out of just the Jedi code and more into the Jedi philosophy and things like that, which is going to be really, really exciting. And so we were talking and we said, hey, let's talk about this on the podcast too. And not just the book, but let's talk about the things that we're talking about in the book on the podcast. So what we're going to do across the year is we're going to have 16 to 20 episodes of the show that is each going to cover one of the topics that we're talking about in the chapters of the book. So we'll have Ken on when he's able to join us. We'll have, Drew on when he's able to join us. We'll have a whole plethora of people coming on the show. Of course, Davor is gonna ride or die with me on this, and we're just gonna talk about the chapters. We may cover some of the stuff that's in the book. We may talk about other things. It's gonna be a good supplement to what we're working on, and kind of get you guys excited for that project. So we're really looking forward to having this conversation today. We're gonna start with the first chapter, which I can report. First draft has been written, and we're going to be talking about hope as a daily decision today through the lens of Star Wars. So really excited to have that conversation. If you want to check out the book, of course, make sure you're subscribed everywhere, and we'll have that posted when the book is released in the holiday season. We'll post some teases and things like that as we are able to. We're going to be really open with the process of this book creation, and like I said, cover everything we're talking about in the book not everything. We're not going to give it away all for free, but we're going to talk about the same topics on the show. So make sure you're over on Clashing Sabres on all of the socials. And speaking of books, guys, I have honestly some sad news to report. We obviously all know the state of our country right now, of our world right now. Things are really, really challenging. Things are really rough for people out there. We can't even begin to fathom the challenges that people are facing. Our hearts and minds go out to people dealing with what they're dealing with in Minnesota and just across the country. But as far as it concerns Clashing Sabres, today I had to actually I had to go to my mom's to pick up books. So one of the first classrooms we gave books to was actually my mom's classroom, and they have a policy. It is, except for today, because the district that she works for has a policy that if the book is not in the school's library, which has all been approved through the district, it cannot be in the teacher's classroom. Which means a whole lot of Star Wars books had to come out of the classroom.
No.
So I say all that to say, well, one, just to be authentic with you guys, to be open with you guys about what we're doing with the money you guys give to donate on Patreon to put books in the classrooms. We're donating that to a program called Project Transformation. We're taking those books and I'm getting those delivered to them tomorrow. And they are a literacy program that works with underserved students. So these books are still getting into good hands. But this is a call to action for you guys. It's time to really ramp up the Patreon. It's time to get those nominations into teachers because like I keep saying, for every book they take out of the classroom, we want to put 3 in. So I had to take a lot of books out of the classroom today. We got to put a lot of books in the classroom. You guys have been great in supporting us in your donations on Patreon and supporting the fundraisers. We've got the money to do this. We've got the power to do this, but it's going to take you guys. And for those of you who have been listening, who have been watching, and you're thinking, oh, somebody else is going to do that. Oh, it's not, I'm not the one that is going to do it. Somebody else will take care of it. It's you. I'm looking at the camera. I'm looking at you. We need you guys to step up and nominate some teachers so that we don't have to do this again. Because it was pretty devastating to have to do that with how passionate we all are about books. So links in the show notes for our Patreon for where to donate funds, and then also where to nominate a teacher. So make sure you check that out. You can also go to clashingsabres.net and find all of that information. So that aside, we're going to move on to happier and more hopeful topics, and wanted to talk about what we are Star Warsing lately. So Ken, since you're back on the show, we of course had you on talking about your book, The Jedi Path. Since then, you've been Star Warsing a lot of things, but what have you been Star Warsing lately?
If I'm being completely transparent, rewatched this past week. I rewatched season 3 of The Mandalorian because
heck yeah!
I really wanted to look at it solely from the Bo-Katan lens.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually, honest to God, it was fascinating. It was watching the progression of somebody who's completely lost faith with, I think that resonates with a lot of people sometimes. And her, diving into the waters to, I don't want to give it away if anyone hasn't seen it, but diving into the waters to save
If somebody's
Mandalorian.
listening to this podcast, they've seen season 3 of Mandalorian. Come on.
It's fair. So I'm going to visit with Salem the Evil Cat is here to help out. Her diving into the water to save Mando, I think in episode 2 when he's trying to redeem himself, and seeing the episode and not believing it, and the acting ability of her walking through the progression of somebody finding their path and finding their light again was fascinating from that lens. And something hit me with watching it. I do kind of joke with my wife. She's my Bo-Katan, I'm the Mando. And I just wanted to kind of get into it again. And as soon as I did, it just sparked. It was a really cool kind of just thing to rewatch, which a lot of us don't take time to. I mean, I do. I know a lot of people that take time to watch like a season again. Fantastic from just that one. And also, honestly, the John Favreau character, kind of watching him progress with his son and, of course, his end in it, but building it to that and seeing that, like, letting down his own guard to be able to bond with the non-traditionalist Mandalorians.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
There's so much good stuff in there. I know people kind of rail on season 3, but I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it added to the lore quite a bit, and there's a lot to take away from it in there.
Yeah, I mean, it was always the feedback I got after, after I came and talking to friends who watched it. Like, oh, it wasn't as good as the other ones. I think if you take a step back and dig into it, it was actually as good as the first or second. And in some respects, I enjoyed some of it better. Yeah, probably because there was more character development there. You didn't have to build up to learn about these characters. Were reminded into knowing who they were and then building into that. Fantastic. So they did a great job.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I think really for me, like if you take out the Jack Black and that whole episode there, which I didn't hate, like I liked it in and of itself.
Yeah.
But if you take it out, like the season gets a lot stronger, So
I will admit that I skipped over that episode because except for the end, because there wasn't a whole lot of value for me on that episode to watch again because it wasn't kind of what I was doing at the time. It was much more than, like I said, the Bo-Katan character.
Yeah. Davor, what about you? What have you been Star Warsing lately?
Let's see. What have I been Star Warsing lately? Oh yeah. So So a big part of actually my Star Wars fandom that I don't think I've really talked about much here on the show or have really ever brought up at all is Lego. I love Lego Star Wars. I mean,
Yes.
we've talked about it in the context of like watching like the specials and the Rebuilding Galaxy, but I also just love Lego Star Wars, or Star Wars Lego. So last weekend I built Chopper. He's sitting on the
did you
shelf
really?
over there.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Have you seen the new the kind of Lego sets that have come up with the masks? They have the different, really worth it.
Yeah, those are cool. Those are. How long did it take you to build Chopper?
Not that he's not that big of a set. That was maybe like 3 hours.
Didn't take me that long, just 3 hours. Okay.
Oh, some have taken much longer.
Oh, okay. Well, you're gonna have to send some pictures. We'll post it on put it on the Clashing Sabres.
Yeah, I can do that.
Instagram and stuff. Yeah. Oh man, that's cool. So, all right. So, what's your dream figure to build or character?
Oh, what would be a dream? Oh, that's a tough one. Ken mentioned, he mentioned like all the Lego helmets that are out there, and I have quite a few of them. There's a few more that I wish that they had built, like, or that they had released. I think one off the top of my head is Captain Phasma helmet would be really cool to have.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool.
It would just look really cool, especially if they did like if they did like actual like shiny bricks as opposed to just like dull gray ones. If they like really went all out on the chrome, that would be a really cool one to have.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. A mall face it would be. I mean, I'm sure there's one out there. I don't keep up with Lego much, but just with like the intricacies, how intricate can you get the line work and stuff would be really, really cool. I had a Porg that I sat there and handed pieces to somebody else as they built it. That's about the extent of my Legoing. I, however, have been reading Master of Evil, so
yes,
enjoying that quite a bit. So I'm about a little over halfway through. We will definitely be talking about that on Don't Burn the Sacred Text sooner rather than later. We got to get caught up on a couple other episodes. By the time we get those done, we should be able to talk about Master of Evil. So I'm enjoying that quite a bit, and really just immersing myself in the ideas of like I said, the book that Ken and I are working on, and really just it's interesting because life works in a funny way. You have this project that you're working on, right, which gets you to get excited about Star Wars again. So I start watching more Star Wars, which makes me think about the project, which makes me want to watch more Star Wars, which then feeds into like my life and my growth and my development and stuff like that, so that's been happening a lot. Just some personal growth and adventure through Star Wars has been really cool. But a little moment that hit me last night was finishing Young Jedi Adventures. I believe season 3 is going to be the final season, and the way that they rounded it out was really beautiful. So, spoiler alert for a pre-K show, if anybody out there is that hardcore about spoilers. Kai Brightstar, one of the main characters of the show, becomes Bell Zettifar's Padawan.
Oh,
that's cool.
Right? So you see
that's so cool.
Bell and Burry is still there with him. So Bell and Burry
that's really
train one Kai Brightstar. Yeah. So that's really, really interesting. Some of the other characters train with other characters that you see on the show, and Bell makes appearances in the show throughout the timeline. And I don't remember. I'm assuming just because where Bell is at in the High Republic novels, this kind of has to, like, when he picks it up, it has to take place after the Nile conflict. So somewhere between that and the Wayseeker book that we get. But I just thought that was pretty cool that like the final scene with like them as kids was talking about what it was going to be like to be a Padawan, and then they did a little montage of them all coming back together on Tanu. It was a really, really beautiful, emotional moment for a show that's made for 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. So good times.
Right up my alley.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's appointment appointment viewing. No, I really do. I love Young Jedi Adventures. I've got a Nubs plush over here. I've got another one back behind me. So Young Jedi Adventures has a good place in my heart. One of the other teachers at school who's a Star Wars fan was like, "Hey, we're watching Young Jedi Adventures, and my kid is just totally Nubs," and I'm like, "I love that. I just love it." So again, Star Wars brings people together, and it's a good time. But
I do
speaking
want to.
of, go for it. Yeah, yeah.
I was just going to say something I didn't mention. So I do a lot of audiobooks because I have about an hour commute on each side of my day. And I've been listening to Master of Evil. I have about 2 hours left, and it's fantastic.
It's
Absolutely
so good.
fantastic. It's so good. Adam Christopher is a genius when it comes to how he kind of structures the characters and kind of develops the story.
Yeah. I honestly I feel like you could give him anything and he
Anything.
would write it well. So when we get whatever the next Project Luminous is, let's make sure Adam Christopher is a part of that team because
Yes, please.
between let's see, he's got Shadow of the Sith.
Hmm.
He's got now Master of Evil, which I'm assuming sticks to landing.
Hmm.
What else has he Davor? What else has he added to? I'm sure some short stories in the fact povs.
Yeah, those are the only 2 books he's done so far. I think he is in at least a fact pov.
Okay.
He's definitely in fact pov Return of the Jedi. I can't remember off the top of my head if he's in one of the earlier ones. That's all I'm remembering right now.
Okay. So let's get Adam Christopher some more books. Okay, so this is a little bit of a book diversion, don't burn the sacred text diversion, but that's what we do here. What's
Now, did you know that he did a Stranger Things book?
No, did he do one of the Stranger Things books?
Yeah, yeah, it was Edge of Darkness, maybe. I think.
Oh.
I might be off, but I thought he did one.
Interesting. I definitely want to check out some more of the Stranger Things books because that's another fandom that's kind of consumed me right now. What's the next Star Wars book we want Adam Christopher to write? We got Shadow of the Sith, we got Master of Evil. It can be anything.
I mean, he's the niche is there for him in that kind of realm, right? So it has to really align with that. There's been so many that have been done. It's hard to,
Yeah,
you don't want to do like a Revan book or something like that, even though it'd be fantastic, or a Darth Bane book, even though it'd be fantastic because they've gone there.
yeah, but I mean, they haven't gone there in canon. You know what I mean? So because they've done, like Master of Evil isn't exactly like a what was the Dark Lord book, The Rise of Dark. Yeah. It's not exactly that, but it's a following Darth Vader in the early years kind of thing. So all of that is possible, is doable. So I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. I like the idea of a Bane book.
I love either a Bane or a Revan book. I love the Revan character, just that split of good versus evil coming out into physical manifestations, and then it's just insane. That was fantastic. I was battling with him actually.
I mean, you could even tie the two together and have Bane, or I guess Revan came after Bane, so then Revan looking at the lore of Bane, right? Or did Revan?
I believe Revan was first. Don't quote.
See, this is my Old Republic knowledge. Zach is rolling over in his proverbial grave because he just died because I messed that up. But either one or the other,
Either way.
looking at the lore, because my initial thought is like, tell the story. If we don't get it in Shadow Lord, tell the story of Maul on Malachor. Searching through the wreckage of that, and I mean, there's not many people who could spend, however long he has just writing this one character on this planet, right? But you could have the Inquisitors hunting him there or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and he would make it work. So that would be my one. Would be something like that. Davor, what about for you?
Let's see. I mean, there's a bunch of things that I can think of that he would be really good at. I think the dream project that I've thought about for him is like I think he could do a really good like Snoke book. Like actually give us a story with him that like makes him a little bit more multi-dimensional and kind of talks about
Mm-hmm.
like how he sort of rises to lead the First Order and all that. Like he would be the guy
That
who
would
would
be
tell
cool.
a really
Mm.
good story.
That'd be really cool. I thought.
Yeah. Well, maybe that is the future of Star Wars books. Maybe the rise of the First Order is the next Project Luminous. We don't know.
Yeah.
We can't know until they tell us. Hopefully sooner than the 2027 celebration. But that's my theory: is the 2027 celebration will be the next big. Here's the big book projects that we're working on, the larger arc of it, because 2026 feels like it's a year. Not necessarily that they're punting, but they're not going to put out a lot of stuff. We've got 4 or 5 books announced, a plethora of comics and everything like that. I'm actually pretty excited that they're slowing down on the books to try to go back and revisit some old things. But what you guys should be revisiting is Ken's Jedi Path book. So make sure you go and check that out, because it's going to lead right into what we're talking about tonight. It's going to lead right into what's going to be coming out this holiday season, which is the Jedi Path 2 working title. But one of the chapters, as we talked about earlier, is going to be Hope is a Daily Decision. And we wanted to go ahead and discuss this tonight. And obviously, hope in Star Wars is a huge conversation. It's throughout the stories. It's even more so since the Disney era, since Rogue One especially, with all the hope that is spoken about throughout that story. Rebellions being built on hope, Leia saying hope at the end of the movie, things of that nature. So for you guys, and Davor, I'm going to throw this to you first. When you think about hope in Star Wars, what just immediately comes to mind? And take that in any direction you want to.
Oh, that is.
It's a broad concept, but
it's a broad concept. Yeah.
What's your stream of conscience? Just like I say, hope in Star Wars. Like, what visual pops in your head? What phrase pops in your head?
All right, visual. Luke looking at the twin suns. That's where my brain's going immediately. I'm thinking A New Hope, because that moment is like. I mean, I think there's so much happening in that moment, because like there's sort of the element of him being like, it's like another day on this stupid farm, and I'm never gonna leave. So there's actually there's probably a little bit of despair actually in that moment. I think he's starting to feel that like, this is just gonna be my life forever. But then he is also looking at the sun, and he's getting the swell. So there's still that element of like looking ahead and adventure, and like maybe there's more to my life than just farming water and all of that. So I think that's what immediately comes to mind.
Yeah, that's a good one. The John Williams score over it obviously, adds to our interpretation of that. Ken, for you, when you think of hope, you got Luke Skywalker right behind you. Is it a Luke moment? Is it something else? What really stands out to you?
It's a lot. It's a lot of moments, but it's not it's not the speeches before the battles, or when the Death Star blows up, right? It's when they're staring into the darkness and they still show up every day. And it's that persistence and that perseverance and that, the realization that it's okay to be unsure. It's okay to not have all the answers, and that know that you're going to be guaranteed victory, but that you're going to throw up and give it your damns. Between, from Luke to even, I mean, even Vader in Lens, I mean, the last thing he did was turn back to the light and, respark that hope in his son, that things could, turn, and things could progress in the galaxy better than they had been. It's that when I think of hope, it's that It's that lead up to, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if this is going to work or not. Because most of the time, I'm sure, if this is in a real life sense, the probabilities probably would have been pretty darn low, right? But still showing up every day. And I think there's a great lesson in there. And I think that's really why it resonates with a lot of people. Uh, because some of us, we don't have confidence in things. Hope is what makes us wake up in the morning and keep doing it.
Yeah, and that's for me, kind of goes to exactly what you're talking about, because that moment for me is going to shock absolutely nobody that is listening to the podcast. But it's Luke throwing away the lightsaber in Return of the Jedi.
Mhm.
That moment for me, like, hope has defined my life. Hope, has been something through the tragedies, traumas, experiences, that I've had. Um, and I'm not trying to sound victim-y or anything here, but like, my life has not been easy. It hasn't been a clean path, as many people's lives aren't. And having that moment of Luke deciding, hey, I am going to face the greatest evil the galaxy has ever known, and I'm going to stand before it with nothing but my will and my faith.
Mhm.
That was really powerful to me. And not only that, but I'm going to choose to believe
Mhm.
in my father, in this person who honestly he'd never met. He'd never really met Anakin Skywalker. He had met the shell that was Darth Vader. And instead, I'm going to choose to be a Jedi like my father before me. That moment has always inspired a lot of hope. Um, and honestly, I would go to a different Twin Sons moment, which would be end of Revenge of the Sith, with
Yeah.
Owen and Beru holding Luke,
Mhm.
looking at the Twin Sons. That to me, I look. This is going to be blasphemy. Um, Personally, I think that is, when you look at the Star Wars narrative, that's the more important moment with regard to hope than it is Luke staring at the Twin Sons, because again, that's when the darkness has consumed.
Hmm.
The galaxy has fallen, the Jedi Order is over, the Republic has crumbled under itself, and become the Empire. And yet, these two characters, well, I guess these three characters, because you include Obi-Wan there in that moment too, are choosing to have hope for the future. And I don't think, and the Kenobi series kind of supports this, but I don't think, Owen Beru are thinking about the hope of the galaxy here. They're thinking
Yeah.
about the hope of this child, right?
Hmm.
Luke is thinking about the hope of his father. And that's something that I think is really important about hope, is that, you know, it's two things to me. It's an opportunity, and it's a small, it can be a small thing that can change the galaxy, right?
Mhm.
Um, you think about the Death Star plans. I mean, think about how small the little disc is that the Death Star plans are on, right?
Mhm.
Think about how small that moment is with Owen and Beru, and it can be really powerful. So I guess when you're thinking about hope in Star Wars, are there, other than, kind of the obviouses, is that a word? We're making it a word. The obvious
It's a
ones
word.
that it's a word. Okay, good. See, this is why I have you on the show, Ken. Uh, when we're talking about hope, are there, other than your Lukes, your Leias, your obvious ones, are there any smaller characters that stand out as beacons of hope? And if anybody else takes Ahsoka, I'm gonna no. Ahsoka counts as a big character. Uh, so Ken, you got anybody who stands out as?
So, arguable. I know that's a word that has been said. I think Keenan Jarvis embodies
Mm,
what what hope means, because this is, when you dig into the character, this is especially if you listen to or read the prequel book to when he first meets her. He's broken. He's broken by Order 66. He's broken by losing not just his master, his parental figure, his whole you know dogma that he believed in is gone, and you can see, especially at the beginning of the Rebel series, you can see somebody who's haunted by the loss of familia, and yet he's still, and he's effectively walked away from the what was left of the Jedi, walks away from the fullness and closes himself off, but then he still chooses to pray to Ezra. He still chooses to wake up and teach him, not by telling him about the Force, not by, saying this is what it is, by starting to live it again and starting to show it again. I don't know if either one of you, I believe you're Rebels fans. I'm a lot of
Yeah.
fans too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But his end scene is so powerful on so many levels. Well, he had been blind in early part of the series, and he regains his force sight back to see, you know, to see her one more time, to see it, and to see the his family that he's saving, and that's not a man that was started that show. And it's certainly not one who was, we find in the book series, which is set a few years prior to that. And that's somebody who found that spark of hope, and it might have been in Ezra, it might have been, deeper than that, but he found it, and then that started creating a series of actions that led to, something, a very powerful portion of the whole story.
Mm. Yeah, and I think too, like again, to that idea that hope provides opportunity, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
What he's doing there, he's not guaranteeing the rebel team victory. He's guaranteeing them an opportunity. And that's kind of what Ahsoka in the World Between Worlds is talking about. If when she's telling him, if you say you can't save your master like I can't save mine, right? You can't take away his choice because that choice was the hope and opportunity that was provided. And when you take that hope away, when you take that chance away that it provides, you take away uh, everything that comes with it. So
Hmm.
that's really powerful. Davor, for you, who's a smaller character, whether it's a small screen, books, something like that, that stands out to you as hope?
I'm gonna go with this pick because I think it fits, but it also illustrates the sort of multi-dimensionality of hope and sort of like the
Mm.
nuanced ways that it shows up in Star Wars. And I'm gonna talk about Luthen Rail.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. All
I
right.
think Luthen is an interesting example because like if you go back to the season 1 speech that he gives to Lonnie when he's talking about like what have you sacrificed, and he
Hmm.
kind of goes into his thing. It is a speech about hope. It's not very inspiring, right? Like he's not
Right. Yeah.
rallying the masses here. But when he's talking about like I don't have the line, but when he's talking about like I you know I burn my light for a sunrise I'll never see. Like he's talking about hope. He's like I'm sacrificing like all of these things, whether it's
Wow.
like
Mm,
who I am, my dignity, or my conscience, and all of that. Like I've done this. Like what did he say? Like the 20-year equation, or like whatever it is that he
Hmm.
says at the beginning of the thing. That he figures out. Like I'm doing all this stuff, and I'm doing it because at the end of it, there's going to be the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And it's
Yeah.
like he's doing all this. Like it's unclear. Like he probably thinks slash knows that he's not gonna live to see it.
Hmm.
He probably thinks that even if he lives to see it, he's not gonna really be there partying with the Ewoks. Like he's not gonna be right. Like he's not gonna be part of the victory party. Like
Yeah.
he's going to be ruined in one way, shape, or form, whether that's mentally, physically, whether just like a stained reputation, and he can't be in polite society and all of that. And so he's doing all of these things. He talks, talking about being condemned to use the tools against, the tools of the masters or whatever it is.
Hmm.
But he's doing all of that stuff with this conviction that there's going to be a payoff at the end and the Empire will be defeated, even if it means that like he has to essentially like destroy himself in the process. So it is about hope. He has that hope. Like all this stuff he's doing is going to actually make a difference. It's not hope in the like Leia, Hera, like that kind of like inspirational
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, and hope is really it again, it's about opportunity. It's about giving to somebody else. And I never would have thought as Luthen thought of Luthen as a hopeful, selfless character, but when you put him in comparison to a Saw Gerrera, for example, like Saw isn't full of hope. Saw is full of revenge. Saw is full of envy. Saw is full of anger. And so he acts selfishly out of that anger, and as a result of that, like even if he were to have lived to see the Empire fall, um he's not going to be able to celebrate that because he doesn't have that heart of hope that a Luthen has. I think if Luthen had grown into old age, he would have had a sense of contentment, regardless of his station. Even if he wasn't, partying with the Ewoks, I think he would have been able to say, "Hey, look, like this is what I knew it was going to be, and I can be at peace with that." Man, that's a good one. I'm gonna go another deep cut and even go a deeper cut than that. I'm going with Vi Marati, good old Magpie from Phasma and Black
All
Spire.
right.
I got um, because here's Vi, and she's caught, she's trapped, she's being tortured essentially by Cardinal in the Phasma novel, but she always has this hope that he can be better. She always has this hope that her strategy is going to pan out and is going to work, that if she continues to tell this story, that it's going to open Cardinal's eyes, which eventually it does. And I think that that's really powerful. And then she takes that, and every time she faces consequence, or not a consequence, that's not the right word that I'm looking for. Every time she faces a challenge and fails at that, she's able to find hope to move forward. So for example, at the beginning of the Black Spire book, I believe, Davor, you could maybe help me, correct me on this. There's something happens that like maybe it was Starkiller base getting blown up or something, or the resistance base being attacked, but she's supposed to be on one mission and then basically gets sent to Black Spire.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. I can't remember the specifics of it, but like she felt defeated in that. She felt like she was being sidelined in the greater war, but she finds hope in the people, and the people she surrounds herself with, the people that she builds this resistance with on Batu. And I just find that really, really hopeful. And then kind of out of universe, the fact that this character who started in a Phasma novel as kind of more or less a plot device in the story, she wasn't developed with a great thoroughness in that book necessarily, not because she couldn't be, but just because that wasn't really the focus of the book, right? And then Delilah Dawson to masterfully take that character and then take it to the Black Spire book and expand on her and make her a protagonist for the book. And then that character is brought from these two really, non-essential books, right? Like they're not like, you need to read them to be able to understand. They're fantastic books. We love Delilah Dawson, and they're some of my favorites of the canon. But to take this side character essentially and then put her in Galaxy's Edge and make it a larger thing, that's hope to me. That as a fan of Star Wars, that what I'm doing here, who characters I'm investing in, are part of a larger plan. So, anyways, side tangent there, but that's the thing about hope, right? It's all about, again, like we've just repeated on here, it's about opportunity. So other than the big moments that we've talked about, right? How do you think the leaders that we talked about, whether it's a master, Jedi master, whether it's a Jedi Knight like Kanan, whether it's a leader like Luthen, as you think about the threads that run through Star Wars, what are some of the commonalities in kind of how hope is provided from one character to another? Because that's the thing, like hope is in a weird way transactional, like it's unconditional but transactional at the same time. People do it not because they want something out of it, but because they want to give something. But at the same time, it's about giving. It's about giving an opportunity, like we said. So How is that kind of spread through the Star Wars ethos?
Eh, I'm going to go again where my brain is going, but I'm thinking about the end of The Last Jedi. And so like you have sort of like there's sort of like a 1-2 thing that happens at the end of that movie. It's like on the one hand, you know, Luke gives hope, and he does it sort of 2 ways. Like the most immediate way that he does it is like literally like bodies on the lie, right? Like he goes to create, he creates the distraction, he allows the resistance to escape, and then make sure that the resistance can continue. I will not be the last Jedi, etc., right? And then that effort ultimately kills him. So he does that. So there's that element of literally sacrificing of oneself, a la Kanan and Rebels, to go back to Ken's example. But then you think about what happens after that, and you get the sort of postscript, which is the kids back on Canto Bight telling the story, and they're playing with the little toys, and then you have Broom Boy holding up the broom like a lightsaber. And so like there's the other element of how hope gets transmitted. Like they're light years, however far away, but they're still getting it because of the storytelling, right? Because this has now gotten passed on. The story of what Luke did there is now the source of inspiration. So there's sort of that immediate, like what he does there on the ground in Craig, that like again like, gives the opportunity for the resistance and for the Jedi to fight another day. But then there's that sort of ripple effect that it goes to all these corners of the galaxy, and people they start telling the stories, and that starts to inspire them to behave a certain way. That actually makes me think of another example. So, sorry to jump in here, but from a book, but it's related to The Last Jedi, is Legends of Luke Skywalker. I don't know if you've read that.
I was just about to bring that up. Yeah.
So it's I think the first story in there, and it's like the Imperial who's like stranded on Jakku, like after the Battle of Jakku, and then there's like some robed guy who like finds him, and then I think he's leading him like back to civilization, like taking him through the desert. And they have this really poignant exchange at the end, where like they get to the end, and then the Imperial guy like asks this guy, he's like, "Are you Luke Skywalker?" And the guy replies, "We are all Luke Skywalker."
God, I forgot about that.
It was. I remember listening to that in the car, and I was like, "Oh, like I wish I weren't on the highway right now, listening to this, having a moment."
You're like, I need to cry.
Yeah, but like that's such a point of like providing that sort of hope and the inspiration through the example of like, and that also ties again to the end of The Last Jedi of like, here is this person that I want to be, and like here's a certain way that I want to live my life.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think that really all ties together. You know, it's about taking this larger identity and applying it, you know, whether it's you're a rebel, whether it's you're a Jedi, whether it's you're, you know, a Luke Skywalker. You know, we look to those models for the example of how to be for other people. You know, Obi-Wan looks to Qui-Gon, and Luke looks to Yoda, and you know, Rey looks to Luke, and stuff like that. Is spread throughout. That mentorship is a huge part of hope. Ken, for you, yeah. Did I take the words right out of your mouth?
You actually did. No, that's where I was kind of going with this was, you know, Star Wars has such a fantastic storytelling of mentorship, and in so, you know, in so many examples of it, you know, Obi-Wan to Luke, you know, Kanan to Ezra. And in that, that's, you know, hope doesn't get passed once, it almost gets passed twice in those transactions, because the mentor is passing, you know, the student hope of what can be done if you turn to the light and, you know, believe in what the force can be. And then the student, it has the opportunity to pass that back out and kind of branch it back out into all of their actions. So then it interconnects like a spider web of, you know, the the young Jedi being able to, you know, to affect all these different people around the galaxy, be it Israel, you know, is a good example of, and that's the truth that was taught to him by Kanan, and then he spread that back out into into the into the galaxy to let it resonate in places maybe it wouldn't before that, and it starts
Yeah.
with the mentorship though, and they do a fantastic storytelling of mentorship. So you
Well,
stole all the words out of my mouth.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We know each other
So
too well already. No, I think
clearly.
it's spot on because like even if you look at the beginning of Rebels when they are taking I don't remember if it's Jogan fruit or what, but they're taking the supplies to the Tarkin town, right?
Mhm.
Like that's the start of Kanan showing how you pass on hope. You pass on hope through service. You pass on hope through sacrifice. You pass on hope through doing the hard things. For
Hmm.
me, I think the big thread is you pass on hope through vulnerability. Um,
Hmm.
Mm.
you think about Yoda in Empire Strikes Back talking about judge me by my size, do you?
Yeah.
Even the luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. It takes a sense of vulnerability to say like we are not. I'm not what you see. I am something else. Um, that that's really what he's saying is that like I am a spiritual being, which means like I am something that you can't see, which when you put it like that sounds kind of cuckoo for cocoa puffs, but we all have lived the human experience and we know that we are more than this crude matter, whether you believe in God or you believe in souls or you just believe in morality and humanity. It's kind of irrelevant what you believe in. We all have a sense that there's something more important than just ourselves, and that is, I think, what hope is about. And you look at um even Rey at the end of the Rise of Skywalker, the Jedi calling her to be something more. She's in a vulnerable position as she receives that hope. So
Hmm.
I think there has to be that vulnerability. Ben, sacrificing his life and being willing to be emotional and vulnerable. You can see the vulnerability. I mean, Adam Driver just plays it so well
Mm.
in that moment. Is it's critical. So with that in mind, what are kind of, I think there's two questions we need to ask. One, what's the prerequisites for hope? And then two, what are the outcomes that we usually get from hope? So Ken, let's start with prerequisites. Like, are there things that you need to have before you can have hope that you then are able to give to somebody else?
I think the biggest thing you need to have is presence. I think that,
Mm,
what you learn from, the Jedi way is, you don't have to be perfect. You have to be present. And to your point earlier, you have to be vulnerable. And that vulnerability comes from presence. It's being there as the master teaching the student that it's okay. This isn't going to go perfectly. It's okay that we might not win because the force will give us an opportunity to try it again and again and again, and we'll always have like an ability to turn to the light
mhm.
when the opportunity arises. So that's my
It's
two
it's
cents.
Jin's moment of like we're gonna take the next chance and the next
Yeah.
one until the
That's it.
chances are spent. So yeah,
That is
yeah.
100%, and
Uh,
that's a fantastic line portion of that book because
might
that is
might
such
be
a
might
great
be in a chapter in a book. We'll see. Maybe
it's a great message.
it
Just
it
keep
really is.
you keep this isn't Star Wars and I forget the movie, so it doesn't matter. But we hear in Key Lion, it was like, we're going to figure it out, and then the next problem's going to happen. Oh, it was, the game movie. And you know, just keep figuring out problems, and then you get to come home. And that's, for a lot of people, that's what life is. And without the hope that you can do it and the faith in yourself, you're never going to be able to accomplish it. So that's the, you know, but you have to live in the
Yeah, and
moment to do that.
yeah, and I think that for me, like that's that authenticity factor,
Mhm.
that you have to have. I think it takes that authenticity to be reflective of
Mhm.
oneself, to be responsive to oneself, and to be present, to be able to be present. You have to be authentic with yourself, and I think our society kind of messes with authentic and translates it to you have to be perfect, you have to be
Yeah.
something, and all authentic means is you just have to be yourself. You have to not mask, and we see in Star Wars we have so many characters who are masked, and it's when they remove that mask that they really get hope. Whether you look at Vader, whether you look at even Boba Fett in the Boba Fett show, he's more hopeful after he starts, taking his mask off.
Mm-hmm.
We look at the clone troopers versus the stormtroopers. We don't see stormtroopers with their helmets off. We see clone troopers with their helmets off because they're more hopeful characters.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that, throughout the story. Davor, for you, what does Star Wars tell us? Excuse me, about the prerequisites of hope.
I think an important part of hope is a belief that things can be better. I'm going to go to another Luke Skywalker. I got all the Luke Skywalker moments tonight, but I go to Battlefront 2, which is him and Del Meeko on
Yes.
Pilio, and they're having that conversation, and then Del has that line about where he's talking about, like, I know what the Empire is capable of, but what else is there? And Luke says a choice, and he's like, the rebellion. He says, no, a choice to be better.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So, like, so many times the thing that kind of prevents characters from being or feeling hopeful is this belief of, like, this is just how it is, and there's nothing else I can do. You see that particularly, like, when you go to the dark side characters. Like, you look at a Vader, or you even look at the way Palpatine talks. They talk in a lot of language of, like, must. Like, I must obey my master. Like, I have to do this. Right? There's a belief that they are on this path, and, like, that's it. Like, I don't have any choice. Like, I can't do anything other than the thing I'm going to do, or the thing that I need to do. Versus when you look at, again, these characters who, like, try to bring hope, like someone like a Luke and other folks, like, there's this time it's like, no, like, there's the choice element. Like, you have to believe that things can be different and that things can be better, and then that will allow you to be optimistic. Okay, if I do things right, if I do certain things, then I can make these steps towards, making the galaxy better, or what have you.
Yeah, I think that's important. It has to start with that belief, because if you don't believe in it, you're not going to follow through in it with it. And hope, being able to pass on hope, it requires us to take steps, to move, to do actions. Hope is not something that Star Wars, it tells us it's in motion. It takes action, it takes steps. Hope is not something that just sits there waiting for you.
Well, it's not permanent. Yeah, hope isn't permanent. It's something that needs to get renewed constantly.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
And
like,
in that, yeah.
well, I go to, like, Leia in Last Jedi, right? We finally see her, this character who has been the pinnacle of hope, kind of give up hope on Ben Solo, on Kylo Ren. I know my son is gone.
Yeah.
But while she has fought, in the resistance, and she has tried to bring down the First Order, we don't see her do a lot of things trying to reconnect with Ben. She sends Han. We see that moment where she just stands and kind of stares into space as he's coming at her. But there's not a lot of, like, this isn't a condemnation of Leia. This is just, she was in a very particular point in her journey there, but we don't see her making a lot of actions towards hope that he can be redeemed, herself. But when she sees Luke make that action, then we see in Rise of Skywalker, now she starts making some choices that put hope in motion, right? And that does eventually, she is the defining factor in what does actually end up redeeming him. The combination of Han and Leia, but it's really that moment when he sees Leia lay down on the table through the Force that really breaks him. And so I think hope has to stay in motion, and that's why it's so important that it passes from person to person. The dark side depends on people giving up on that belief that we can be better, that we can be more, and that we can actually go out there and do something and provide hope to other people. And that's what I think is really important, and I think is kind of a theme that we've uncovered here, is that hope is not, it's not for you. Hope is selfless, and I think, the characters that we've talked about, whether it's, a Luke Skywalker, a Kanan Jarrus, I even look at, I got to bring Ahsoka up, because walking away from the Jedi Order
Mhm.
is a moment of hope. You know, she is providing she provides hope to the Martez sisters that the Jedi can be better, you know, which is just a microcosm of providing hope to the galaxy at large. She provides hope to Bo-Katan through the Siege of Mandalore. But I would even say she provides hope to Anakin. You know, he doesn't take it and run with it, but she gives him the opportunity to say, you can walk away from the Order. It is something you can do. And I don't think that's something he's fully wrapped his head around. So it's present throughout the saga. We have just touched on kind of the very surface level ideas of what we could get into as far as it regards hope. Of course, you know, we get into it a lot more in the book, and some of these examples that we talked about tonight come up, and then there's some other ones in there too. But if you guys had to pen an essay on hope, what's the thesis statement that you would provide as it regards hope in Star Wars? Let's close out on that. So, Ken, I'll throw it to you. What's your thesis statement of hope in Star Wars?
Hope isn't just pretending the darkness isn't real. It's choosing light because the darkness is real.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That would be my thesis
100%.
statement.
I love that, because that's the thing. You know, we see that throughout. Hope really lives despite the darkness. You know, whether it's, I have a idea that I've talked about on the show before about, you know, the torch of the Jedi being passed from
Mhm.
Ahsoka to Luke to Rey, you know, all of that stuff. Even after the Jedi fall, it continues on, even though these characters don't always come into contact with each other, as that hope is passed on. So
Yeah, it's the
what
difference
about you?
between. Oh, sorry.
No, go for it, go off, please.
I was just going to say, you know, that's the difference between hope and blind optimism. You know, blind optimism is you think that everything is going to just work out and be fine. Hope is knowing that sometimes it's not gonna, and you have to pay it, but that you
Mm-hmm.
can, and you can figure it out.
Yeah. It's so funny you mentioned that, because like I'm working on a project at school, and I had some parents in today that, and I was showing them kind of what we're working on. And basically, long story short, there's going to be some construction going on in my classroom, and they're like, "You're going to teach while the construction is happening?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to figure it out." Right?
Hmm.
You just hope says yes and then finds the solutions. Right? I have hope for the brighter future for my students. Right? And that this construction is going to provide the opportunities it's going to provide. So I'm going to find a solution for it. And that's what these characters in Star Wars have taught me is, and this would be my thesis statement, I guess, is hope says yes to opportunity. Hope is looking at the future and believing, kind of like Davor talked about, that it can be better. Not because you can see it, but because you can believe it. So Davor, for you, what's your thesis statement on hope in Star Wars?
I mean, I think it goes off a little bit of what you were just talking about and what I talked about a few minutes earlier, which is like hope is choosing to believe that things can be better. You know, it is like it's something that is very much like proactive. Like you have to decide to be hopeful. You are not just are hopeful. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's not just like a state of being. Like it is something that you have to be deliberate about, and it's something you have to choose, and you have to sort of consciously resist the forces of like pessimism and
Hmm.
darkness that are out
Mm-hmm.
there. And then I think that element of like it goes back to something that Ken was talking about a little bit of like things can be better, but like they not necessarily will be, right? Like it's not inevitable that good
Hmm.
triumphs over evil, and like in the short run it actually might be that evil wins, and then like the ultimate victory of the good guys is going to be decades down the road, and
Hmm.
then maybe the good guys will lose after that, and then they're gonna have to win again. So like there's that element of like not believing in a sort of inevitability, but like it can be better. So that, therefore, like you have to make a certain set of choices and do a certain sort of things to make things go in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
That's why
100%.
symbolism like symbolism is so important as, you know, those symbols of hope, because sometimes that's what you need sometimes. You know, you need the Guardian Light Medallion, you know, you need something to remind you that hope is something that, you know, will help you push through whatever you're going through.
Yeah. And that's why it's a daily decision. You know, we've got to
Yes.
get up. We've got to choose hope every time. It's not something like we talked about that exists if you are passive about it. You know, Anakin loses that hope because he's passive about it, because he believes that everything is controllable, and Hope understands that things are not controllable, but believes that you can get through it, right? Like Davor, like you were talking about. So powerful stuff. We could go another couple hours on Hope and Star Wars, right? It's one of the biggest ideas, and it was a lot of fun to explore in writing the chapter for the book. It was a lot of fun to talk with you guys tonight, and I have a feeling this won't be the last time that we talk about Hope on this podcast. So make sure you are subscribed everywhere, whether you're listening on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube. Go subscribe on all of them. You know, you don't have to listen on all of them, but like, go subscribe, go leave a rating and review on all of them. That just helps people see what we're doing here. And like I mentioned before in the episode, like really what our mission here is these conversations, bringing you guys into these conversations. All of that stuff is aimed at making a difference in the world and providing that hope to the next generation. And we do that through our nonprofit, which puts Star Wars books into classrooms and really make sure that this story continues, that we pass on hope. You know, you guys pass on hope to us. We pass on hope to the next generation. And regardless of literal stormtroopers out in the streets trying to take that hope away, we're going to stand firm in that and make sure that we stand with what Star Wars teaches us, which is to choose the light even when darkness persists. So join us in that mission. Go to clashingsabres.net, nominate a teacher. That's primarily what we need right now. We need teachers to send books to, and that happens through you guys. So don't depend on somebody else to do it. Be the difference, be the change, and we'll take care of all the actions. Pass on hope by just going there, filling out a quick form, and then we'll take care of everything else for you after that. Davor, if they want to find you, talk about your favorite Star Wars books, or just listen to what you're doing outside of Clashing Sabres, where can they do that?
All right, if you want to find me on social media, I am on Blue Sky at Demondum. You can also listen to me as a co-host over on Space Swifties, a Star Wars and Taylor Swift podcast that I host with my wife, the one and only Meg Dowell.
And Ken, if they want to keep up with you, whether that's finding you online, reading the Jedi Path, anything like that, where can they find you?
So I do have a small website, kenmartinpublishing.com, where you can find the Jedi Path. You can find some other works that I've done, and some business writing that I do, and all my contacts are on there. That's the easiest place is kenmartinpublishing.com.
And we'll have that in the show notes as well for you guys. And so, you know, we talked about all these characters that provide hope throughout the episode. And we have a sense of hope on this show. You know, it comes down to this singular idea. We hope that one day people will understand what we're saying when we say batch 8.
Hi ho.
Ken, you got to give the hi ho. There you go. It's off the podcast goes.
Yes.